Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel where we're still building the Honda Civic with the K-Swap. Recently I was going to upload a video, but it was in a bit of a mishmash kind of scramble again, as it's just like a tedious job of doing the wiring, the ECU and the engine harness. Engine harness is really plug and play, and then the ECU is plug and play, but the problem that I had was the conversion harness. Just recording it was very hard and difficult, so I'm chosen not to upload that video, as there's many other videos on YouTube on how to do that kind of stuff, and I will show you how to do it properly. In this episode though, we are going to be doing a charge harness. This charge harness can be used on pretty much any vehicle. If you're doing like custom, obviously, like we are, if you go to buy a charge harness on the internet, you're either going to pay big money or there's not really any. So it's pretty easy though. It's DIY. It works for every vehicle. And I'll just run through that really quickly. So just real quick, I hope the wind isn't too bad, but a charge harness is a separate harness to your normal engine harness that connects to your coil packs and all the sensors. So the charge harness is for the battery and the fuse box with your alternator and starter motor. So usually on the left-hand drive vehicles for the American people, you guys will have your fuse box up in this corner with your battery there. And then on the right-hand drive vehicles like this one here, the brake boost is on the other side obviously, and your fuse box is originally here and your battery tray is right there. Because I've got the turbo dump going around that way, it gets in the way of the battery and the fuse box, and it gets very hot, and I don't really want the battery to get too hot because it's dangerous. Obviously I'm going to be running a heat shield underneath the wiring there and tucking that all up nicely still. I still got to do a lot of like tucking and maintenance kind of stuff. If you've noticed this red wire, how it's just loosely wrapped around, I'm going to show you briefly how everything works. So instead of having my battery up in the top corner, I've decided to move my battery down into the bottom front of this fender. I'm making a custom bracket, as the ones that are on the internet are kind of out of my budget on this budget kind of build, so I've decided to make my own, as I have the fabrication and skills to do that. I'll just run through it, and then I'll show you guys a diagram on screen on which one I followed, and I'll tag the YouTuber in the diagram that he created that I've been going off. So real quick, you're obviously going to need to ground your earth from your battery to your chassis, so you can go on like any of these front bolts here and whatnot. So that's the first start. So then you're going to run a power wire. I'm running mine along underneath the fender here and tucking it through with the wiring later on underneath the fender, like I've done on that side with the normal headlight wiring. Or you can run it through the engine bay neatly if you're lucky, but I'm tucking it underneath the fender. So it's going to be this red wire, go through on the fender side, and then it's going to go to the fuse box, which I've relocated underneath the dash with my homemade relocation brackets. I might decide to sell a few of those in the future if people are interested for the right-hand drive vehicles. I might try and make a left-hand drive vehicle version. And I'll also try to sell a battery box if I make a few of them as well. I've got a lot of things in the future planned for custom made parts, but I'll get onto that later. So you're going to run your power wire along the back to the fuse box underneath the dash in my situation. And then you're going to run another wire from the fuse box back out. You can either go back out around that way, and that's going to run to the alternator. And then you're just going to run a starter wire straight from the battery to the starter, as the starter has a switching wire and plug already built into the engine harness. And that's pretty much it. I'll put up a diagram like I said before. So I'm also going to try and conduit all this and make it a bit more neater. I like the black look of the wiring. I don't really want to show the red too much. But yeah, let's get on to building this harness. So the stock charge harness for the K series, I believe, is a 6-gauge wire. This is a 4-gauge, it's a little bit bigger. And I don't have a crimping tool to do these crimp ends, but I'm doing this on minimal tools. So I'm going to be using these. What I'm doing here is I'm adding a bolt in with my like vice grips here. I don't know if that's the name for it, I can't remember. But obviously you got big leverage with these, and then you chuck a bolt in there and you squish the bolt. And then what I'll go ahead and do later is I'll heat this end up and add solder in there just to secure it to the wiring correctly. And this end's going to go onto the battery here. I've picked up the wrong terminals, but I can make do with them terminals at the moment. They're a bit too big. Up next, I am doing the charge harness from the alternator to the fuse box, which I'm gonna reroute around the engine and conduit. But pretty much it's all rinse and repeat with everything. I don't have the correct tools, so I'm just doing it as if I would be doing it for some of you people that don't have the tools at home. So pretty much I'm just using a razor blade to cut off the surrounding, what do you call it, protection, or I can't remember the name, it's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, you cut off this red stuff, just like that, all stripped back, and then you're going to get your terminal end, your copper terminal end to go on the end, and then you got to crimp it again, and do the same for the inside 2 crimps, your starter to battery one as well. So we'll quickly just run through that. This video is going to be a very short one as it's pretty basic and easy. These are what they're called cable lugs. I picked these up from Autobarn. Squeeze. So now that one's pretty much done, I'm going to add some solder into there just to strengthen it, and then add some heat shield, and that one's done again. So I've just finished crimping and heat shrinking the terminal ends on the alternator and starter harness. Right now I'm going to go ahead and conduit these and then fit them into the car and engine bay. So at the moment this is under the dash, this is a fuse box. You can see the black conduit, that's the alternator one for the right hand drive, and then the red one is for the straight battery. And this is the right hand drive version. I've got these 3D brackets that mount underneath the dash, and that's pretty much how you do it. You're also going to need extended bolts for these 2 terminals here, and I've had to kind of cut out this bit and snap that bit off on both sides, and a bit here as well, just to get them to fit in a bit better. I'd probably recommend going with like smaller gauge wiring, but it is what it is. For the left-hand drive models, you can see on the left-hand side, that's going to be your alternator, and then the right-hand side one is going to be your battery or starter. So now I've got the alternator, starter, motor connected, and the 2 fuse box connections. We just got to connect the terminals. I've got a bit of a janky setup here with some screws, but hopefully nothing catches on fire or melts. You see I've got the screws in there, but that should do for a earth, and that should do for a power. Everything seems to be okay. Everything seems to be pretty good in here. There's nothing like melting or anything. So what I might do now is turn the key on and see if I can get anything. So I actually haven't had this car turn on at all since I bought it. I bought it with no motor. I've never actually had this thing on. So, I've got a flashing light, which is a good sign. This is my first time turning the ignition on the EG Civic. Got nothing. Oh, there we go. We've got a battery light. Hell yes! That's sick. Got the lights working, got the clock working. Woo! Yeah! Hopefully in the next episode we'll be wiring up the gauges for the dash here and the dash vent up the top here, and getting closer to starting up the car. Massive thanks to everyone that stuck around to the end of the video. I know it wasn't the most interesting video, but it had to be done, and I thought I'd show you guys how it's done, and you guys can go ahead and do it on your Civic or your engine swap on a different car. It's pretty much all the same, just depends on the fuse box. But yeah, I appreciate everyone that stuck around to the end. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much.